Hey everybody, I'm Stokarz. I'm CEO of Minters and also the creator of the fully on-chain game called Rascal, which is a pod racing game that we launched in July that year. So my today's talk will be basically about the auto battling genre and why I think it's kind of perfect genre to just put it on the blockchain and find this magical twist in the genre that is currently missing. So basically, you can think of auto battlers as the strategy games, very fast strategy games. You create the army, you deploy the units, and then you watch them fight. So the most popular auto battler, and I think the most fun one currently, is of course Teamfight Tactics. And you can actually kind of see the game loop here. So you have the roster of units, you deploy them onto the battlefield, you update them with gold, with items. You create the different kind of combination that give you some additional benefits, and then you just put this army and wait until they clash with some other player. So this is how the auto battlers look like right now. When it comes to Teamfight Tactics, there are around 80 million people playing that. So it is a popular genre. So the question is, and I think this is the most important question that we all should be asking ourselves: how does the game look? How is the genre benefiting from even putting that on chain? Because putting anything on chain is very, very costly in terms of computation. Players need to pay for any transaction, any move, anything that is processing the world. So you need to think about the benefits of that. It cannot be done only just for fun, right? So my question is why? And I have three answers to that. So firstly is we are trying to follow the global gaming trends. When you look at the gaming history, you cannot really make genres. You cannot really work on genres that are outdated, that nobody is playing, because you won't attract any clients, you won't attract any players, and your business will just go bust. So we take the popular genre and just identify what is currently missing. So the pre-production process that we did for Battle for Blockchain, our newest game, is we basically went through all the articles in the internet that we could find about auto battlers and what are the players actually saying about them. And we found something really interesting. So a lot of people were excited about them in 2020. But then the articles started flowing that there's something missing. There's some twist, some spark missing in those things. And maybe somebody can introduce a product on the market that's gonna have this twist that is interesting for the players. And a few years passed by and nobody did that. And Teamfight Tactics just became the largest one, and nobody was even trying to introduce some new aspects to the genre. So why we think being on-chain is really interesting. Firstly, because you can introduce a massive multiplayer online model for auto battlers. Firstly, because blockchains are kind of the global state machines. So you have one global truth, one global state. And so what we found out with our testing, our experience in development, is that you can actually host thousands of players concurrently on one battlefield, on one map. Okay, this is what blockchains are great for. We previously created a session-based game, and we had a lot of problems with that because we are basically fractalizing the space that players are putting the units on and then just playing. So it was very hard. So we thought, okay, maybe let's create one giant map. And what you get with one giant map that is, well, working quite well, you get a MMO version of any kind of genre that you want to run. What else? We can also add some classic collaboration loops that people are already very familiar with. So just build collaboratively kingdoms, deploy armies, and just raise the wars. What else? One of the hardest things in the previous game was that it was synchronous. We were getting up to 100 players daily, but it was still not enough in a global community to actually have them not waiting for like 15 minutes to find the match, which is very hard. And people became frustrated. At one point, they even wanted us to create a bot that was just playing some kind of the predefined strategy against them. So the waiting queues would be shorter. So what MMO Auto Battler brings you is this notion of asynchronous play. One of the biggest challenges right now when it comes to building fully on-chain games is that you are basically putting yourself in a giant box of limitations. And I couldn't overstate how hard it is at the beginning to even try to think of the genres that fits to this state of the on-chain, being on-chain. One of the most easiest thing that comes to our mind in the beginning is just make the strategy. They are slow. The transaction cost might be okay because you are making a very high value moves at the beginning. So the cost, like you want to get to the mainnet as fast as possible. So you need the genre that creates very complex outcomes from a set of very simple rules. And auto battlers are like that. Like the initial rules are very simple. But what creates this fun, this complexity, this notion of the game being interesting is actually the fact that how you assemble, how you use those rules to create complex outcomes is what drives the most and power to your player, to your characters, and this is very, very interesting. So, and after all, one of the limitations of the blockchain is you can't really process everything at once. You need to go step by step. And of course, you can trick players a little bit on the front-end side, for example, by creating asynchronous animations. But on the blockchain side, on the back end, it's all just step by step, turn-based, right? And you can process the auto battler step by step, but showcase it on the front-end side of things as one big giant asynchronous, the game that is, you are seeing a lot of animations. So it doesn't feel like you are making a turn-based game. So we are thinking also about the fact that there is this idea in the autonomous world space right now about the persistency of the world, and I feel like it's very important. So how do you design the game? So the question is, how do you design the game that actually have this property of being persistent? And we thought about the idea of like, let's schedule it into a very small battles, and then let's have the battles create a giant war, and of course all your loot or your gold transmit through those wars. So what you get is basically the world of infinite play around the war, about the conflict between two kingdoms. The last thing I would like to tell you about a little bit, like, how does the math help? Before we were using math, we were actually building Rascal on our custom framework, which was very hard. It took us around 8 to 9 months to even bring this game to the mainnet. But and then, like, what's the point of engines? Well, once you start building on ECS, for example, and you actually have this robust engine, it's basically much simpler to build fully on-chain games because, well, Solidity is very hard. And it's very not really useful for fully on-chain games. So what MAD does is it brings the robust engine for the whole pipeline, for the whole development process, and it just speeds everything up. And I think the speed is very important here because we are all still competing for a very niche market that will soon, I think, become much bigger. But you need to deliver very fast to the market. You cannot just wait for 2-3 years and do nothing. Okay, so if anybody wants to try that in practice, we will be at the gaming corner. The game is called Battle for Blockchain. So just come in, say hi, and we're gonna play together.
We have time for one question, I think. So does anybody have a? Perfect. All right.
How did mod help you with building the asynchronous execution of the auto battler, and did it help at all? And what are your thoughts on asynchronous executions of auto battlers?
Yeah, so it was helpful in a way where we could basically create one function that processed the whole game. We couldn't do that in just pure Solidity. So what mod it was a kind of great trick by our engineering team, but we created one function that just processed the whole world, the whole battle. So this is the aspect where MUD was like very, very helpful for us, because you can just run one function, it's permissionless, anybody can just run that. So even if we all die, like you can still play that game.